What is up? What is up? What is up? Gonna let people get in here. Gonna let people get in here. Gonna let people get in here. What's up, everybody? Just doing some quick work right now real quick. While I'm doing this, remember, for all my folks who are just joining for the first time, we love supers. So if you can support by getting supers, we appreciate it. I feel like this camera is like very like, but I'm going to work with it. And would also love for you to tell your friends that you're over here. And talk to us. So shout out to everybody in the comments joining us. Hey, Holly, what's going on? Hey, Ginger. It's been a week. Really love seeing you guys. Let me know where you are joining us from. Let me know where you're joining us from. While we let people get in here, we're just going to give people a little bit longer, you know. While I'm letting people in here, I want to remind you that you can go to amandaseals.com. While you're in here, I just want to remind you that you can go to amandaseals.com and sign up for the newsletter so that you can make sure that you know when I have shows coming. We also have like information in the newsletter. So it's not just like promotional. So definitely a way to also just be a part of this ecosystem that I'm building. You know, I think one of the biggest lessons that I've always known, but that this week really also just drove home, is that I have to build my own machine. And you guys are really the love power that makes it function. So thank you. Holly is our moderator, so just know that if you act up, she will kick you out or at least put you on timeout. Also want to remind you that I just locked in tickets for my Baltimore dates. My Detroit dates in June. So get your tickets for that. We're also going to be announcing dates in Toronto. We're also going to be announcing dates in London and dates in Raleigh, North Carolina. Is this who I think it is? Is it? Is Eslyn who I think it is? Let me see if Eslyn is who I think it is. Sometimes I wonder where I've been, who I am, do I fit in? I may be weak, but I can't be thrown out here. Okay. Sloan's like, no, I'm not who you think I am. Touche. On my own. All right. Yes, Morel. Yes. I don't know why, listen, that song has been resonating this week. Resonating. But when I'm down and feeling blue, I close my eyes so I can be with you. Oh, baby, be strong for me. Baby, belong to me. Help me through. Help me need you. By the way, I saw somebody comment somewhere on this internet. Amanda Seals is an unidentifiable talent. I said, now hold on now. Unidentifiable? They said I have unidentifiable talent. Yeah. Now come on now. Now come on, man. We can't do that. We can't do that. Unidentifiable? What a nigga gotta do? What do I got to do? Really? Do I got to do like a whole handstand? Like, what do I got to do? They said we don't know what she do. It's unidentifiable. I said, wow. Wow. I said, that's wild, bruh. That's wild. I said, that's wild. Anywho, so welcome to another Common Sense Kickback. We are here. We're in the mix. We got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about Black media. I want to talk about the unfunding of UNRWA, and I want to talk about the decline of DEI. So those are my main topics tonight. I think that all of these things have really big impact in a myriad of ways. They all have connectivity in a myriad of ways. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of times people can't necessarily see the way these things connect. So I try my best to try to connect those dots. I appreciate everybody coming over here and joining us. Also, remember, you can subscribe to my Patreon. That is the best. When people ask me, like, Amanda, like, what's the best way that I can support you? I'm like, the best way that you can support me is to subscribe to my Patreon. Like, that's like the best way. And that's because my Patreon really is like where I am building like my world. Like, I want my Patreon to eventually be like the Amanda Seals network. And I have so many ideas for all different types of stuff, right? So, when I shoot my feature, I want to put it out on my Patreon. If they pick it up later and put it in movies and theaters, fine. But really, I would love to be able to get shit to you all directly. Like, that's like my real actual goal, is to be able to make shit and get it to y'all directly and not have to like answer to anybody. That's the plan. That's the goal. And so I appreciate folks who already understand that, but also, folks who are like, okay, well, when I get my money right, I'm there. I got you. So shout out to y'all. Now, before we get started, I want to remind you that if you enjoy anything that's being said tonight, please put up a black fist or any kind of fist in the chat. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, I hope that you will timestamp anything. You see that behind me? Shenanigans. Yeah. So, are you eating the chair? Stop eating the chair. So I hope you will timestamp anything that was impactful, that you felt like really needs to be, amplified, so that people who are watching this later can, click on it and get there really quickly. So the last thing I'll ask is that this YouTube algorithm really likes people to watch for a minimum of 20 minutes in order to deem something valuable. So even if you have to walk away, I would love if you could still keep your screen open, keep things available, because that really does help the algorithm say, oh, this is something that matters. All right. Remember, while you're here, to like, comment, and subscribe. Please, actually just do that right now. Like, drop a comment in the comment section, and subscribe. Let's just do that right now while we're here. This is the whole music. Like, comment, subscribe. One more time. Zumba bolera tiza kotidata. Zumba popesa kila kotikata. Zumba podeata tiza pozibata. Sha, 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 Great. Thank y'all for that. Okay, now I'm hot. Oh, how I love him so madly. How can I tell him I love him? Oh, I watch him so sadly when he goes for a stroll by the sea. He looks straight ahead, not at me. Tall and tan and young and handsome, the boy from Ipanema goes walking. When he smiles, his girly passes goes. Ah. All right. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. That's my girl. That's my girl. Mahogany Brown, my ace bone coon, a real one forever and ever and ever. So shout out to Mahogany Brown. Yes, I'm very honored to be honored at the Black Girl Magic Ball. That's my good sis. That's my good sis. Before we get into this, I also just want to shout out my shirt because I just think it's cute. Sunny days. I don't know why I'm singing so much tonight. If it gets annoying, just let me know. Sunny days, sweeping the clouds away. Fly my way to where the air is clean. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Also, I just thought it was cool that the back of the shirt has all of them, has like all their backs. Isn't that cute? Target be coming through. Just saying. Just saying. No, it's not vintage. It's Target. It's Target. Okay. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is this DEI decline. I don't know if y'all noticed. So first of all, the governor of Alabama signed a bill this week to end DEI in Alabama at universities. And okay, I just have to put a pin in this because someone asked this question. I just have to answer this question. Yes, I do have musical influences. I mean, I was just singing Fame earlier. I'm writing my book right now, and I'm writing about like my high school drama experiences, like drama club, theater experiences. And so I'm talking about like how I became a musical connoisseur. So, just like how Sondheim and all the things became the things. So yes, I have many musical influences. Can I twerk really good? No, I cannot. I can twerk well enough to be a Floridian, but no, I do not have the skill sets of individuals who would say, yes, I am a twerker. If I had to get on the pole, I don't know that I would really come up with the money. I don't know that it would be very lucrative. I'd be on the pole doing poetry. Oh, you're asking like my musical interests. I'm thinking you're talking about like musicals. Why my musical interests are very jazzy? Because my first vocal coach was Richard Owens, rest in peace, one of the greatest. And he recognized that the tone of my voice was very like jazzy. And so the first like music that he told me that I really needed to like learn was jazz. And that was different than what he usually would train people with, which was Italian concerto. But with me, he was like, no, I want you to really, really like understand and know jazz tonality, jazz musicians, etc. So I'd be in high school, like driving around to Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan and Nancy. Wow. Whoa. I don't know why I'm blanking right now. But so that was, that's where I was. And I feel like that was a lot of where I still live. All right, RPR. Thank you for the compliment. I'll take it. All right, DEI decline. So the Nancy Wilson, I'm like, why am I blanking? So the governor of Alabama has decided to stop DEI programs at schools. So she's prohibiting DEI programs at schools. And something that really needs to be noted is that these are states that are very much funded by their sports programs in their colleges. Okay. You think about Alabama, you think about Roll Tide, you think about University of Alabama, you think about Auburn's Alabama, right? So University of Alabama, Alabama State, these are not just like small programs. And I think it's really important that that's called to question, because that is why we have to acknowledge that if you are Black, you need to be, yes, Auburn is in Alabama. I thought I was bugging. You need to be conscious of like where you're going to attend. So the head coach of I think it's Alabama State football team, literally was like, you should rethink coming here. If you're a Black person, you should rethink coming to Alabama to play sports. And the NAACP has also extended the same warning, not warning, but the same concern. When we talk about the way that DEI is being attacked, we cannot underappreciate the intention. So we have to acknowledge, and Nicole Hannah-Jones talks about this in her recent article, in her recent essay in last week's New York Times Magazine. She talks about colorblindness and the way that colorblindness as a legislative concept is undermining and undoing the efforts that were made in the civil rights movement to bring some level of support and momentum behind Black folks in order to go towards the goal of equality. You cannot go towards the goal of equality without acknowledging that there is a disparity. And there is absolutely a disparity when it comes to Black people in this country and the ways that we have been held back in a myriad of examples. That's not just economically, but that's in terms of our education capability, our education. That's not just economically, that's our education access. That is our access to home ownership. That is our prevalence to be involved in the criminal justice system. That is in the inequity with the way that the criminal justice system sentences us. I can go on. So we all know this. What we're watching when we see Edward Bloom and his efforts to undermine affirmative action, we see his efforts to now undermine the Freedom Fund and what the work that they're doing to raise money for Black women entrepreneurs. When we see that Texas just ruled that a organization that is created to get funding for Black businesses now has to consider everybody. It can't just be for Black people. When we see that happening, what we're seeing is not an effort to say, you know what, we don't want race to matter. What we're seeing is an effort to say, we don't want there to be specific objectives to help Black people move through a system that is still inherently racist. That is what that is doing. And so many folks may not acknowledge the fact that this system is inherently racist. It has never changed from being racist. There has never been a cultural shift. I say this all the time. There has never been a cultural shift in America to say we accept Black people as equal to white people. That's never been a language that has been led. That's never been a concept that has been like completely, encouraged within our school system, because that's when you see what things really are. The way that we teach our children is the way that we are showing how we want culture to go. That is the way that you can look at anything, in my opinion. How children are directed is how the thing should go. That is how the culture is choosing to go. So when you see the concerted effort in places like Oklahoma, in places like Florida, Texas, Tennessee, to commit absolute erasure of American history by completely just eradicating commentary that is of very important relevance around racism as a defining factor in the defining of this country, you are literally watching them say, we want our young people in America to not acknowledge racism as a real thing. However, these same people are continuing to behave in a racist manner because they do not want to acknowledge the past in order to correct it. If you don't acknowledge the past, then you don't have anything that you need to correct. If you will not identify these things happened, so we need to do this as the antithesis, then where's the responsibility to do so? It's a false narrative. It is imperative to understand that laws in this country were explicitly made for Black people to be held back. Whenever there were laws made that were supposed to be about advancing Black folks, it was the choice of the Supreme Court to actively leave out language specific to the protection of Black folks. When you have the 14th Amendment and the 13th Amendment, there were Congress people that were saying, you know, we need to have very specific language that says we will protect Black people trying to vote, that we will protect Black people who are in integrated spaces. And they said explicitly, no, we can't, we're not going to do that. And it's not Congress's right to do that. Yes. Now, I agree with Rhythm and Wonder, who said this all comes down to the 2016 election. Trump's wins allowed to get 3 Supreme Court justices, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and the other broad, the Catholic cult, Barrett, onto the Supreme Court, as well as 234 federal judges. Now, what that allowed for is things like Edward Bloom's efforts to move through and things happening in various district judges. Now, one thing I think may have slipped from some of you all's awareness is that the U.S. House of Diversity and Inclusion will be dissolved. The United States House of Representatives Office of Diversity and Inclusion will be dissolved as part of the government spending bill that passed. The officer's director posted that in a statement. Think about that. Now, if that doesn't ring like bells for you, it needs to. It's incredibly problematic that is happening, and that it happened under the radar. Sesha Joy Moon said in a statement to CNN that her department will be replaced by the Office of Talent Management under the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer. The Office of Diversity and Inclusion will close effective Monday. The change comes as DEI programs and initiatives across the country are facing increasing attacks from critics and Republican lawmakers. The office was first formed in March of 2020 with a mission of creating a congressional workforce that reflected the makeup of the nation. According to its website, the office's key duties have included financial management, candidate services, member services, research and data analytics, and professional development. So there you have it. Now, Mira says, Washington, D.C.'s governor just passed a bill to teach LGBTQ history guided by a DEI framework. So Washington, D.C. and the federal government are two different things. So the governor of Washington, D.C. can do that, but that doesn't have anything to do with what the federal government is deciding to do with their Office of DEI in the House of Representatives. Gem Drops is a really great question. This is scary. What can we do? It feels so removed. Why some states are deciding for the nation. Well, what's really happened is that we have a Republican and Democrat field of representatives, but we also don't pay enough attention to our state senators, and we don't pay enough attention to our state representatives. And that has been by design. I don't think y'all really understand that these people be in session just passing laws left and right, and you don't even know. You don't know the bills that are on the table. And this is why it's not a true democracy, because ultimately these people are in position. They're able to present bills that they then debate and they get passed. Now, at the city council level, the city council will, present things that then require it to be presented to the forums, and then you go to city council meetings, and that's when you see people that will get on the mic and say, we're against this, et cetera, et cetera. In my opinion, if we were a true democracy, that would need to happen on the state and federal level with laws that are getting passed. So it doesn't have that. Yes, I meant to say DC Mayor. I apologize. Yes, Mayor Bowser. My fault. Yes, and it is no governor because it is not a state. And it's taxation without representation. There's also that. So the thing about understanding government for dummies, there's no such thing. You can't be a dummy and understand government. And that's also by design. The people who are in government don't understand government. They are relying on staffers. Okay? You think these senators, you think Marjorie fucking Taylor fucking Greene, you think she understands government? No, she doesn't understand government. Like, these people don't know how things actually work. So ultimately, it's very, confusing. It's like taxes. No one really understands taxes who hasn't made it their concerted effort to understand taxes. And I'm not sure what you're saying, Carla G, is federal, but Mayor Bowser passing something in DC is not federal. That's just DC. But this right here, Ginger, is 1000% it. It's become a political talking point. Cutting DEI will get them a lot of racist votes. DEI is this year's CRT. What we're seeing is demagogues. We're seeing politicians who have now committed to the Trump ethos of, if I just rally the base based on their ignorance, then that is enough for me to be empowered to do whatever I want to do. And ultimately, there is no way for them to, ultimately, they can, as they have power, they can do whatever they want to do. And they will do whatever they want to do to stay in power. It doesn't even matter if they're racist or not. They're like, if this is what it takes, then that's fine. I'm down with that. Because that's what is really happening. It's just people doing whatever it takes to stay in position for whatever reason they want to stay in position. But at the end of the day, my frustration is that when we see this, I don't see enough Democrats hollering about it. I don't see Democrats demanding that this stop. And if they're doing it, I'm not seeing enough of it. I don't feel like I'm hearing enough of it. I feel like that should be from the rooftops. And it's not. It's the same with voting rights. And that's what lets you know that the Democrats are not operating in the way that a lot of us have been trained to think that they operate, which is as the antithesis to Republicans. Now, they may not be the same as Republicans, but an antithesis is an opposite. And they're not the opposite. They're just not. And so it's important to really understand the dynamics of that, because that really plays a part in how you vote. It's how you move. It's going to be how you decide where you want to get behind. It's also going to be important to understand lobbyists and what they're about. Because Carla is 1 billion % right. They're not governing. It's a hustle on their way to a lobbying job. We just saw that the actual, I can't remember if it was a senator or a representative who brought this TikTok bill to the floor. Apparently, he's like leaving to go work for a private security firm. Yes. So there is a lot for us to understand about the system that's in place, because that's the only way that we begin to dismantle that system. A lot of people have now come to understand, like, oh, APAC is a lobby, and what do lobbies do? We're in a corporatocracy. Please listen to the last Common Sense Kickback that I did with Jeff ML. Jeff ML is an anti-imperialist. He's a regular guy that just really knows a lot and is becoming an influencer on TikTok and Instagram with just his points of view, because they're so on point. And he did a YouTube live with me, a Common Sense Kickback with me this week that was just so informative. And it taught so many of us. We were all like, people in the chat were like, what? And I was doing the same thing. What? So please make it your business to check that out, because it was really worth it. And it's also worth following him and his wife. They have a podcast called Good Thunder, and you can also follow them on Instagram. And both of them are about it. And what I'm really trying to help y'all do, I'm really trying to help y'all cultivate, spaces of intellect where you're not the smartest person, where you don't know the most. Like, that's how we learn. You have your thing that you bring to the space, and you give space for other people to bring their thing. And now you're interacting and having dialogue that is deeper than just a meme. Okay? It's imperative that we do that. So I want you to check those people out. Whew. So when we talk about this, we're like, okay, why does this matter? Like, what's going to happen then on the other side of DEI? I really wish I knew how to turn off these notifications, and I don't know how to turn them off. Maybe I can do it like this. This is when we have to become very strategic about how we create spaces, how we monitor those spaces, how we manage those spaces. And we also have to learn the law. We're going to have to learn it. And that can be really difficult. What's up, Hamid? And I think it's really important that folks understand that there's things happening behind the scenes that we simply don't know about. So it renders us oftentimes like with our hands tied, because we're like, well, we don't even, it's like you're in the dark with a knife. Like, I don't even know where to point this at. And I feel like, so this is interesting. I think that when you put this in this state, like, I think some of these people are leaders. I think some of these people are pundits. I think, there are people that have great minds in this list. And the silos oftentimes come from ego, to keep it a buck. If you're frustrated because you're like, why are there silos? It's because there's egos. It's because there's egos. I mean, 2 of those people had a group chat that I was in, and I got kicked out the group chat because I wasn't participating enough. I didn't even know that I was kicked out the group chat. I just found out later that I was removed from the group chat because I wasn't participating enough. And I wish someone had just simply said, would you like to stay in the group chat? If so, this is what we need. I didn't know the bylaws of the group chat, y'all. I didn't know the bylaws of the group chat. So, the other thing I want to say this too, though, is that a lot of people that y'all may consider to be leaders are still reformists. They still believe, like in the system that's in place. And as long as that is their mindset, they cannot lead the shifting that would need to happen to really change this nation. It's just not feasible. You have to wholly understand that it will take a revolution because it was built wrong in the first place. The foundation is wrong. So if you don't understand that, then you're not going to know how to change it. Like when I went on Simone Sanders' show, like we, had a bit of an exchange because she was like, the system, it always fixes itself. And I said, well, I disagree. I don't believe it always fixes itself. It's literally never been right. So how can it right itself if it's never been right? And she was like, well, what's your plan? What are you going to do? I said, I don't have a plan yet. I'm just learning that it's wrong. Like so many of us, I'm unlearning what was taught to us. So I think, a lot of times these talks that we're having is really just me being able to engage with folks and seeing y'all in the chat engage with each other around how to consider other methods for change. If you listen to the Common Sense Kickback that we did with Greg J. Stoker, we did a great conversation where he talked about the ways in which we would have to actualize change. First starts with just education around imperialism. First starts with education around like recent history, like Vietnam. So it's important to know where we are like in the phase of like actualization of change. And what's scary for me is that I think that those of us who really want to see a shift are very behind. Those of us who want to see a progressive shift are very behind those who want to see a regressive shift in terms of their efforts. That's why we have entire cop cities being built all over this nation. That's why DEI is effectively being undermined. This is able to happen because they are so far ahead of us and we weren't paying enough attention to not let it happen. But we are now, and we need to catch up. Now, something else I want to touch on real quick is the unfunding of UNRWA. So if you didn't know, UNRWA is the largest Palestinian relief organization that provides aid to Palestine. And essentially what took place was there was some rumor that was started no less by Israel that claimed that members of UNRWA were members of Hamas and that they had engaged in sexual assault. And without any investigation, UNRWA's main contributors, America, England, Canada, etc., pulled out and stopped providing aid stop providing funds to UNRWA, which then stopped being able to provide aid to Palestine. And we all see what is going on in Gaza. We understand that there is an actual famine taking place, a man-made famine taking place. It is absolutely genocide. It is absolutely ethnic cleansing. It is happening 100%. 100%. Then we see reports from the UNRWA employees saying that they were tortured, that they were made to strip naked, that they were made to stand for extended amounts of time, that some, they were questioned in very demeaning fashions, tortured fashions. So all of this is really indicative of war crimes. Now, Canada has apparently reinstated funding of UNRWA, but America basically voted to defund UNRWA with this latest spending. And they passed a spending bill, which effectively defunds UNRWA. It's the largest humanitarian organization in Palestine, and they're apparently unfunding it until March 2025. The passage, this information comes from so.informed on Instagram. The passage of the spending bill comes as civilians in Gaza are being starved by the Israeli government and the entire population faces imminent famine. The United States has historically been one of the top funders of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, for Palestine refugees. Biden has promised to sign the bill into law immediately. I'm going to tell you some of the names that will stand out to you that voted for this bill. Now, this bill sends $4 billion, okay? This bill sends $4 billion to Israel, which is bonkers. Some of the names that voted on this that stood out to me in terms of senators, of course, Fetterman, of course, Cotton, Schumer, no surprise there. I was shocked to see that Raphael Warnock had signed this, had voted yes to this. Padilla, no surprise. Ossoff, no surprise. McConnell, of course, no surprise. Sinema, no surprise. But I was genuinely shocked to see Raphael Warnock sign off of this. I was very happy to see that that in terms of the House, there were a number of members that we expect not to sign this and not to vote for this, including Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Andre Carson, Castro, Max Frost, Jayapal, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib. And Bernie Sanders. Only one senator only 24 senators opposed this. I think it's only one senator, two. What am I looking at? Opposed 24, two. I think that it's very frightening because we have to now know that this is all about AIPAC. Jasmine Crockett voted for the bill. Mm-hmm. Wasn't happy about that. But this is all about AIPAC. Now, I'm doing a YouTube Live on Monday at noon with Eva from If Not Now org. They are a Jewish anti-Zionist organization that is working to put together a consortium of organizations to create a pact to challenge AIPAC directly. And I'm really excited about this conversation because it allows us to be able to see progressive change in actualized ways. And I know so often, so many of you all are just like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And there have been people who are really behind the scenes in the lab, activating and putting things forward that you all will be able to tap into. Okay. I did not know this. And I got to tell you, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm not as prepared tonight as I normally would be. I really wanted to read the whole bill so I could really be able to talk about it in full. but since it's so fresh on people's minds, I want to at least present it. And thankfully, you guys do things like this, which is insert more added information that people need. I did not see the part about Palestine not being allowed to take Israel to the ICJ. It's crazy how this type of language makes its way into documents and it just doesn't get amplified. When you see folks who will say things like, well, the reason why we're where we are now with Palestine is because they have never accepted any of these treaties. They've never accepted any of the, the deals that have been brought to the table. Largely in part, it is because it will contain things like this. It will contain language that still keeps Palestine as a subordinate to Israel. So why would they sign that? And you have people are like, well, they should still sign it if they cared about their people. But if you know your people, you know your people are going to look at you crazy and sideways that you would set them up for this BS deal. So, you have to remember when you listen to these types of narratives, just know you're not getting the full story because you know who's telling it to you is not interested in telling the full truth. Because if they tell the full truth, then you are going to know that they are full of, yeah, exactly. So the last thing I wanted to discuss before we get out of here. I'm a member of Black media. I'm a member of Black media. I have a radio show called The Amanda Seales Show. It is available wherever you get your podcasts. It is also available in select cities. Namely, we're in Philly, we're in Houston, we are in Columbus, we're in Washington, D.C., amongst others. I began my career as an adult in radio on Sirius Satellite Radio in 2003. I was also a journalist and I wrote for allhiphop.com, for Vibe, XXL, and The Source. I was also a VJ, which is also considered Black media. So I was also a VJ on MTV2. I have hosted on every single music platform except for CMT. So that's Fuse. That is Music Choice. That is BET, MTV, VH1. And I came up in my 20s in New York with folks that were in Black media. We were the journalists of the time. We were the hip hop journalists. We were the ones who were really there to carry the torch from those who had really brought hip hop from a underground music to a worldwide phenomena. And then we, kind of carried the torch to take it into the next era of hip hop, which was a really, honestly, capitalist game, but nonetheless, it was a very exciting time. And it was one that was, really impactful to be a part of. And we were like a class. I mean, there's a class of us who came up during that time and who were, really writing the relevancy of that time. So I am no stranger to Black media as someone who's in the media, as well as somebody who has been represented in Black media, right? So because once I became more of a prominent actress on Insecure, as a lead character on Insecure, once I became, a comic of aplomb, with my HBO special, etc., and then I was on The Real. Like once you go into that space now, folks are actually looking at you with a different lens. But even when I was on The Real, that's considered Black media. So I know and I trust and I believe that media is king. I am not the only one who believes this. Our government and the governments across the nation, across the world, also know that media is king, which is why they actively control it. The media in America is very controlled. And I think a lot of people don't know that because we hear language like the free press and freedom of speech, etc. But ultimately, that is more so like a masking language, because the truth is that the media in the US largely in reality gets their information from authoritarian spaces like corporations and government offices, and they just basically spew that. Now you have journalists, don't get me wrong, you have journalists that also do their work on the ground in terms of identifying stories that need to be shared, you know, whether it's narrative stories like the 1619 Project, or if it's investigating reporting like the Boston Globe did with uncovering, you know, all of the priests doing all the nastiness. That being said, it cannot be understated how important media is, which is one of the reasons why I am always frustrated at the lack of Black specific media that seeks to inform within the lens of the unique Black experience of this nation. There is no reason to me that BET should not have a news show. That is unconscionable to me. BET should have a news show, but BET is owned by Viacom, which is owned by white people, and in their minds, they're like, well, this is not valuable. You know, I commend Roland Martin, because Roland Martin did have a show on BET that was of that effort, and when that no longer continued, he went over to YouTube and has really built his own space over there where he really is educating folks. And I want to just encourage everybody to, you know, make some time to go check out Roland Martin's content. Now, I do feel like Roland is very committed to the Democrats in a way that I think sometimes is a bit conflicting, but it doesn't stop him from bringing people on his platform to present alternative points of view. So that's responsible, and I feel like that's fine. You know, you have the Griot, which is now trying to become a space in that way. So you see like Mark Lamont Hill, who is my Ace Boone Coon, and he is, you know, consistently bringing topics specific to Black folks to the fore, and that's, you know, what he's doing. And they also have other folks over there like Ebony K. Williams, etc. But this is fairly new for all intents and purposes, right? And I am, with my radio show, hoping to continue this, because a lot of the radio shows that we have that are considered, you know, Black spaces, they really aren't really being responsible with the power of their platforms. We witnessed that this week with the Breakfast Club. You know, I think that in the effort of trying to be, maybe I'll just be generous, be inclusive, sometimes we misstep, because we as Black folks are faultily forgiving. We're fatally forgiving. We know this for a fact. And in doing so, we are constantly undermining our efforts of liberation. There is a responsibility and an obligation, in my opinion, to anyone in Black media to make sure that we are understanding that we're not simply just speaking for ourselves when we are speaking. Our platforms are valuable, not just because of like ad sales or whatever. They're valuable because for a lot of folks, that's where they're getting their information. That's it. I take it very seriously that people tell me that they get their information from me. When people started telling me that, it made me say, I have to be way more conscious about how I am delivering information, what information I'm choosing to deliver. You know, with my radio show, it is not, we don't do anything casually. Okay? We don't do anything casually, and it is very thoughtful in finding ways to share information with you all, to keep you engaged, to keep you interested, to encourage curiosity. Like that's something that I like think about all day with this radio show. What stories are we going to just give you straight ahead? What stories are we going to turn into a game? What stories are we going to, share, but then have like a joke attached to it that expands the stories? How can we find every nook and cranny to squeeze in something valuable? And sometimes that's not just information. Sometimes the valuable part is you all having a voice and being able to create space for that. We have a whole segment on the show called Voting and Venting, where you can call in and share with us, something that you are thinking about, frustrated about, and as it relates to the election, as it relates to our system, as it relates to voting, and you can literally call any time of day and leave a message, 1-855-AMANDA-8, and leave a message teaching us something, venting, as long as it has to do with voting and venting. You can call that number at any time of day and talk about literally anything. And we'll play it on the show if it makes sense. But I do this because I have been a fan, and I am still a fan. And people don't understand that. People call me a celebrity, and I'm like, that's something that y'all made. Like y'all put me there. The term celebrity is supposed to be people who are celebrated. Now it's become something else. It's become something else. But I will always still be a fan. And I'll always still be a voter. And I am a citizen. So when I'm making this work, I'm thinking about y'all because I am y'all. And I get sad that people won't let me be y'all. Like, people get mad when I'm in the comments sometimes. People will talk to me so disgracefully and disrespectfully. And I'm just like, why are we doing that? Like, why we got to talk? And then when I respond back, they be like, oh, Amanda Seales is rude. You're right. You're right. You came with rude, and I hit you back with rude. Let me also, as a side note, say, like, once and for all, like, don't come to me for sweetness, B. Don't come to me for sweetness. If you want sweetness, go to Tabitha Brown. That's the sweetest woman on this earth. Okay? Shout to Tabs. If that's what you're looking for, that's what you need to get over there. That's not my gift. I have like all these other gifts. That's not my gift. I'll give you love. I'll give you compassion. I'll give you kindness. But sweetness really ain't my thug fizzle when I'm doing this work. That's not my ministry. Thank you. And so, like, when I see people that will constantly push this narrative of Amanda's mean and nasty, that's simply untrue. But I don't have any tolerance for stupidity. That's a fact. I don't got no tolerance for stupidity. And I just really be frustrated with the world, like, a lot. Amanda's angry. You're right. I am angry. Amanda's difficult. You're right. I am difficult. Because everybody be trying to hit a lick. Everybody trying to pull something over on somebody. And I'm not having it. And sometimes I am stank. Sometimes y'all are stank. Like, this unrealistic expectation for me to be this sweetie pie. I'm like, get that off me, yo. Get that off me. I don't know nobody that knows as much as I know that's a sweetie pie. All of us got some shit with us because we got all this shit in us. And we're constantly navigating that. Add to that, I am neurodivergent. I am in this awkwardness and weirdness all the time. I have spent my entire life trying to learn how to, not ruffle feathers. Like, I've had to learn how to like add words to make people feel like better. I lost a job one time because the person was emailing me yes and no questions, and I was responding with yes and no as answers. And then they literally replied back one time and were like, we're actually going to cancel the gig because your responses have been rude. I was like, I don't know what to say to that. You were asking yes or no questions. I was responding with yes or no. And you know what I had to do? I had to put an actual signature on my emails that say, please pardon the brevity, I'm corresponding on the move. So that people would not take my concise responses as being terse. So I just really wish people would get the fuck off my back with that and stop having that expectation of me. I do my best. And, I'm not trying to ruin nobody's day. I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings. I'm not out here sociopathically just trying to be a menace to society. And I am actively trying to encourage all of us to like do the best work that we can in ourselves so that we can have a peacefulness about ourselves in the world. And as a person in media, I really do my best to try and bring that. And I also demand the best of everyone around me. And sometimes demanding the best is not sweet. There's nothing sweet about demanding the best sometimes. By the third time I got to say something, baby, the sweetness done got a little bitter. Anybody who's worked for me can tell you that. But they'll also tell you, Amanda's not making these demands because she just wants to be a bee. She's making these demands because she wants us to give you the best. She understands that we deserve quality. Black people, we deserve quality. And so often we are shortchanged of that because people feel like they'd rather just get money, or they're just lazy. They're lazy. When I see what's going on right now in Black media, I see lazy in too many places. And let me just say this. We live in a capitalist commercial society, so it is not lost on me that folks got to get their money because you also got to pay your employees. So that is understood. The laziness comes in not being consciously forward thinking on how to balance the want and the need. The want and the need. We got to balance that. Like I see folks that really act like, well, nah, like, we really have to work on the money. We got to get the money. And it's like, okay, you need the money. But you know what? We also need this other thing, and you got to want to do it. You got to want to make sure that Black folks are getting the nutrients. And unfortunately, we live in a society at present where the money is attached to usually the stuff that isn't really gonna fill us up. It's fast food. But the laziness is in not making space for serving that while also making sure that salads are available if we're gonna keep the metaphor going. The clickbait, bringing certain people on platforms, and you might be like, why doesn't she ever say this person's name? It's because it's not valuable. I don't know her. What I know is that problematic, divisive, disdainful, degrading rhetoric cannot simply be erased because you have a correct opinion about this thing. What I know is that if you did all of that, then this correct opinion cannot simply exist in a vacuum. It is attached. What I know is that there should be investigative concern around, well, what is this correct opinion really attached to? Because your track record is not indicative of ethics, of morals, of values. So the willingness to allow these people in a space because you want clicks is honestly abhorrent, in my opinion. And I know people would be like, Amanda's always complaining. Amanda's always complaining. There's always something to complain about. So when we talk about Black media, I really would like to, and I can't even believe what I'm about to say. I really want to give a shout out to, the words are about to leave my mouth and I can't even believe what I'm about to say. To the Shade Room. To the Shade Room. When they posted my video where I said, that I'm frustrated about not even saying I'm frustrated, where I simply just said, like, I feel like I should be invited to these spaces. I contacted them and was like, I really wish you would stop posting me because the negativity is just too much to bear. And they responded with such kindness. The person who responded was so kind and was so receptive to my concerns. And I was so taken aback. And they literally were like, we would be willing to take it down, if that made you feel comfortable. But they said, we actually have an appreciation post planned. And I was like, an appreciation post? I don't even know what that would look like on the Shade Room. And then they posted it. And I was shocked. But isn't it really unfortunate that was the space that, decided to respond in that way? I guess it's actually also fortunate because it means that they're turning a corner and they want to bring light into a space that had originally been founded on shade. And I've seen them doing this more and creating more positive posts. And I'm happy to see it. I would love for Black media to come together. I would love for Black media to, as a consortium, understand and agree that we're going to get on code. That we're going to get on code on what our responsibility is, on what our obligation is to our readers, to our listeners. I would love for us to understand it as an ethical matter. I would love for us to gatekeep it in that way. If you're not going to uphold this, you can't play. If you're not going to keep this standard, you can't get in. If you're not going to assign these values to your actual professional lifestyle, you cannot get a byline. That's what I would love for us. I would love for that to be the standard of Black media. And I don't know how that's going to happen, and I don't know if it ever will happen. But I know that all this money in the mix of everything is the one that really be taking everything out. And when we look at what capitalism does, it's really just a pursuit of white oppression in so many cases. So I just wanted to speak to that because I was incredibly disheartened by the platform that I saw provided this week to voices that have been so harmful to us. And I want us to, on the professional side, really, really take accountability and really get over ourselves and understand it's bigger than us. And I want to encourage you all to always raise your voices when you feel discomfort and discontent about the way that platforms are being used, that are professional platforms. Now, when you all be coming on my page and being like, you need to use your platform, I'm like, this is free. Instagram is free. Get off my back. Get off my back. The last thing I want to say is this. I am lending my time to a benefit concert in support of Palestine. I've been getting heat about this because the nonprofit that is being used has done an event with Shaun King in the past, which I don't know why that's a problem. You know, they are legitimate, like they've done events with a lot of different people, and they were legit. So I can see people feeling like, oh, well, if they did something with him, then maybe it was shady. But no, they have done events with multitudes of folks, and they are reputable. But I also see people saying, you know, you shouldn't be doing music and dance while there's a genocide happening. And I think that everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I just want to frame this in this way, because the other conversation that's happening is, why aren't Palestinians centered in this particular thing? And I want to outline the difference between a benefit concert and a speaking tour. So a speaking tour is one where the people that are involved are going to be charging folks, and they will be receiving payment for speaking. And even though a portion of the funds may go to the actual, even though a portion of the funds may be going to the actual cause, the actual individuals involved are being paid. They're not donating their time. So they are effectively making money off of the cause. Now, in some cases, like nonprofits will have a budget, right? Where they're like, they have to use their budget by the end of the year or else it goes away. So like sometimes I will be asked to come and speak at like a Planned Parenthood event, et cetera, because they have a budget that needs to be allocated or else they lose that money. And if they can use that budget to enhance, you know, their messaging or to make the event greater, et cetera, then so be it. But that's not the case with that situation. A benefit concert is a concert where people are coming together to use whatever they have to get what they can to give. Now, when people are saying, well, why aren't Palestinians being centered at the benefit concert? In my opinion, I don't know that a Palestinian needs to be centered at a benefit concert, because ultimately I'm like, these are people that are literally just like, y'all got so much going on and y'all are dealing with so much. We're going to just come over here and raise some money for y'all. Like, you don't even need to be tasked with this. This is just a space to elevate and amplify and to support. And it's literally like, you don't even have to waste your energy with this because it's really folks really trying to just gain to give. That is different than saying we are the Hope for Palestine speaking tour where you pay us to speak to you about Palestine. And I hope that we can identify the difference between that. Nobody is singing and dancing for a genocide. They're singing and dancing because that is what they have in order to be able to get, like, that's what they have to contribute in order to be able to get to give. And that's what we should all be doing, right? Using what we have to get to give. So I hope that you all will, I feel like I was preaching. So I hope you all have a great evening. Please subscribe to my Patreon. I meant what I said, that at least for the time being, you're not going to see me on the Instagrams. You know, I'll be here, but it's really more important that I be in spaces where I feel safe and in spaces where I can also just like grow the uniqueness of what I'm trying to build. Have a good night, chick. Have a good night. Someone else just said good night. Have a good night, Nia. And so that's, that's where I'm going to be. I just feel like I don't need to suffer fools. And I know my value. I didn't always know my value. I didn't always know my worth, but I know my worth. Thank you, Ginger. But I know my worth. And so I'm going to go where I feel worthy. So, feel free to subscribe to my Patreon. We have 3 tiers, and we're just really excited. First week of April, you'll be seeing all new content. If you subscribe to the In Amanda We Trust tier, I'll be releasing one of my full hours of shows that I've recently done on the road. So you get to check that out. Also, my series, Amanda on the Move. If you are subscribed to the second tier, which is Baldwin, then you will be able to see videos of Small Doses podcast, which is no longer in full on YouTube. You can only catch it on the Patreon. You'll also be able to see extended clips from my stand-up, and you also will get access to my lives that I'll be doing while I'm painting and while I am developing my book and writing my book. And then if you want to, show your love at the $5 tier, that's the Morrison tier. You get access to, and the Morrison tier, you get access, and everyone gets access to the Small Doses bonus episodes that I do every week. We record them live on Sunday nights at 7:30 Pacific, but you're able to listen to them after. You also get access to the Patreon bonus questions from Small Doses episode. And you also get access to the chat, and you also get access to my morning musings. Every morning I greet the Patreon crew with some thoughts and thoughtfulness, and you get access to just the other Patreon content that is posted, like the weekly This Week in Amanda Land gallery. So I want to shout out the SEAL Squad, and thank you to everybody who really has shown me an immense amount of love. Just not even just this week, but before this week. You keep me lifted. You keep me sane. And again, please understand, like, sweetness is not my strength. I have a tendency to be condescending. I have a tendency to be quickly frustrated. I ask for grace. I work on it. Sometimes I fail. But my main purpose on this planet is to educate and to create. So I do my best to do that, and everything else is really just the effort that I'm making. There is absolutely a seal emoji. The seal emoji is literally, it's in front of you. So there you got it. Everyone, I hope you have a beautiful evening, and free Palestine, support Sudan, support the Congo. Check out the other Common Sense Kickbacks in this playlist, because there's so much, a breadth of information, and I'm trying to do my best to introduce you all to voices that are outside of the mainstream media, that are inside of our hearts, and that believe in humanity, and that are actively working to educate and to expand our minds, which is what we need to do. Last but not least, remember to listen to the Amanda Seales Show. My radio show is available in select cities and all podcast networks. Also, I'm going to be on tour. I am on tour. I will be in Fort Worth on April 12th, 13th, and 14th. On the 14th, I'll be doing stand-up on the 12th and 13th, but on the 14th, I will be doing In Amanda We Trust live. It is a forum and a screening, and it's imperative that we get people in this room to talk. We don't talk enough. We do this thing in the chat. We need to do it in real life. All right, everyone's like going and leaving because they're tired, and I understand it. Good night, Ginger. Good night, Holly. Good night, all of you all. Mwah! Remember, we're each other's business. When we look out for each other, we lift each other up.